justice should be carried out to whatever extent of the law.
She was snatched off the streets and then murdered. Her abduction caught on camera.
She was just 11 years old, walking home on Super Bowl Sunday. Within minutes, she was snatched in broad daylight, from a place where she should have felt safe. This is the story of Carlie Brucia. Before we dive in, please subscribe to Noir Crime 88. We upload a new true crime story every second day, so hit the bell and join us as we unravel chilling cases like this one. In February 2004, a Florida community was shattered by a crime so brazen, so heartbreaking, it made front-page news across the country. 11-year-old Carlie Brucia walked to a car wash in Sarasota, planning to head home. She never made it. CCTV footage captured what would become a haunting, indelible image, a man grabbing her arm and leading her away. That grainy video galvanized law enforcement and the public alike. The manhunt that followed would reveal not only the depths of cruelty but also the lengths to which investigators would go to bring Carlie justice. But this wasn't just a typical abduction. What makes Carlie's story linger in the darkest corners of true crime is how methodical, how calculated, the crime was, and how long her memory would demand justice. Carlie Jane Brucia was born March 16, 1992. She lived in Sarasota, Florida, with her mother, stepfather, and siblings. She was typical in many ways, a bright, curious child, full of energy, part of her school community, and liked by those who knew her. On February 1, 2004, Super Bowl Sunday, she was staying overnight at a friend's house. As the evening drew on, Carlie left the friend's home and began walking along Bee Ridge Road. Her plan was simple: walk home and watch the Super Bowl with her family. That walk would become the final, tragic leg of her life. It was during that short journey, less than a mile, that she would be taken, her fate sealed in minutes. In Sarasota, life was a mix of beach towns, suburban streets, local bars, and small businesses. The community was tight, but like any place, it wasn't immune to danger. Still, few imagined that a weekend stroll home would end in horror. At approximately 6:21 p.m., surveillance cameras at Evie's car wash captured a man approaching Carlie and, after a brief exchange, grabbing her arm and leading her off camera. Minutes earlier, the same cameras had registered a yellow Buick pulling into the parking lot. That vehicle would later play a critical role in the investigation. Witnesses described Carlie as walking on a path behind the car wash, unseen by many, but not unseen in total. Her scent trail ended abruptly behind the building, according to police tracking dogs. Her parents reported her missing within about 30 minutes, by 7:30 p.m., and the community responded immediately. But as hours turned into days, hope slipped away. On February 5, 5 days after the abduction, Joseph P. Smith, a local auto mechanic, was implicated. His brother, John Smith, cooperated with authorities and helped lead investigators to Carlie's body behind a church, 2.8 miles from the car wash. The homicide was brutal. The medical examiner confirmed sexual assault, and cause of death was strangulation. A ligature was found around her neck, consistent with strangling from behind. Her body had been moved, dragged into a wooded area, partially concealed. Blood work, DNA, and fibers found in Smith's car matched Carlie's clothing and physical evidence. Investigators also found that items like Carlie's backpack and clothing had been discarded strategically in different trash bins, complicating the trail but reinforcing the premeditation. Smith's criminal record already included drug arrests and prior charges involving kidnapping and false imprisonment, though he had not been held or prosecuted in those earlier instances. The evidence was mounting, the pressure intense. The question now was: how far would the prosecution go to tie together the video, DNA, confession, and witness testimony into an airtight case? Once Smith became a person of interest, authorities wasted no time. The car from the surveillance was traced. Smith's vehicle, a yellow Buick station wagon, was located and forensically examined. In his home, investigators uncovered mechanic uniforms, materials consistent with items seen in the CCTV footage, and evidence that Smith had attempted to alter or dispose of incriminating items. DNA testing yielded critical breakthroughs. Carlie's DNA was found on her shirt, and fibers from her clothing matched samples found in Smith's vehicle. A key moment came when Smith's brother, John, was enlisted. John viewed the surveillance, recognized his brother, and helped persuade him to reveal the location. In a coded call, Smith described where Carlie's body lay in the field behind the Central Church of Christ. When authorities unearthed Carlie's remains, they found she had been stripped from the waist down, except for one sock, and her body had signs of drag marks and abrasions. In legal proceedings, prosecutors leaned heavily on the footage, the confession, the DNA, and Smith's attempts to mislead investigators. Smith's defense challenged evidence chain and lab procedures, particularly in DNA handling, but the jury found the state's case overpowering. A major constitutional question emerged around the death penalty. Florida's sentencing rules required scrutiny, particularly around jury unanimity and judicial authority. In 2009, the Florida Supreme Court noted that Carlie died from strangulation with a ligature, based on medical evidence. Over the years, appeals and resentencing efforts were filed. In 2018, following a landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Smith's death sentence was vacated, citing flaws in Florida's death penalty system. However, in April 2020, the Florida Supreme Court reinstated his death sentence under revised guidelines. But in July 2021, Joseph P. Smith died in prison, before execution, reportedly from liver cancer. In November 2005, Smith was convicted of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual battery. The jury recommended the death penalty 10-2. On March 15, 2006, he received a sentence combining life terms for kidnapping and battery and a death sentence for murder. As appeals progressed, legal challenges focused largely on Florida's death penalty statute, jury unanimity, and sentencing authority. In 2004, in response to Carlie's case, Congress introduced Carlie's Law to strengthen parole rules for sex offenders, though it did not pass. In 2018, the Florida Supreme Court vacated the death sentence. But in 2020, they reinstated it. Smith died in prison on July 26, 2021, while awaiting execution. With his death, the legal battle ended. But for Carlie's family and community, the emotional toll endured. Carlie's murder left scars etched deep in Sarasota and beyond. Her image, an 11-year-old girl being led off by an unknown man in broad daylight, seared into public consciousness. Her family endured decades of hearings, appeals, and heartbreak. Her mother, Susan Shorpen, struggled with the trauma and eventually died in 2017 of a suspected drug overdose, a tragic echo of the pain she carried. In 2024 and beyond, people still mark anniversaries. In 2024, media outlets remembered the 20-year anniversary of Carlie's abduction, recalling the case's chilling details and lingering questions. The case also spurred debates over child protection laws. Carlie's Law was proposed in Congress in 2004 to tighten parole rules for violent offenders and improve protective measures near children. Though it never passed, the attempt symbolized national outrage and demand for prevention. Smith's case also weighed heavily on Florida's death penalty jurisprudence. His appeals touched the balance between jury verdicts, judicial power, and constitutional mandates. But for many, the biggest legacy is personal. Every time someone mentions Carlie's name, her light flickers back into public memory. Her story warns how vulnerable a child can be, even amid surveillance cameras, in public spaces, on an ordinary street. And while justice in the courts may have concluded, the emotional pursuit of memory, accountability, and protection continues, especially for children everywhere who walk home under the evening sky. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the tragic case of Carlie Brucia. If her story compelled you to remember, share, or demand change, please hit like, subscribe to Noir Crime 88, and ring that notification bell. We share new true crime stories every second day, stories that deserve to be heard, honored, and learned from. Carlie's name lives on. May her story safeguard the walking paths of our children.